Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're getting into something that, well, it affects pretty much all of us, often more than we think.
Mhm.
How social media is actually changing your brain.
That's right. We're looking at articles from Nivadi and also the Shaw Foundation for this one.
Yep. And our goal here is to really unpack the science, figure out what's going on under the hood, and pull out the important insights. Yeah, and maybe some tips too.
Definitely. We want to help you understand how these platforms are interacting with your mind, sometimes in ways you wouldn't expect.
Okay, so let's kick off with something I think everyone gets. You're trying to focus, maybe on work, maybe reading a book.
Or just trying to be present in the moment.
Exactly. And then, ding, phone lights up, that notification sound. What happens next?
Uh-huh. For most people, it's almost automatic, isn't it? That quick reach for the phone.
Instinctive.
Yeah, you grab it, scan for likes, comments, whatever it is, and you get that little flicker of something, right? Seeing those numbers, those little red dots.
A bit of pleasure. Satisfaction.
That's the feeling. And that feeling, that's not accidental. It's plugging directly into your brain's reward system.
Right. That hit you mentioned. That's dopamine kicking in.
Precisely. Dopamine, it's this key neurotransmitter, also a hormone, and it's all about pleasure, motivation, making us seek out things that feel good.
And the platforms are built for this. Every like, every share, every positive comment.
Triggers a little dopamine release. Yep. They're designed that way.
The sources call it instant gratification. You get the reward right away with almost no effort, which our brains find incredibly appealing.
Oh, absolutely. And one detail that really jumped out from the research cited is that the dopamine hit from getting a like can actually be, well, comparable to the dopamine release from certain drugs like cocaine.
Wow. Okay. That puts it into perspective.
It does. And thinking about it like that helps you understand how dependence can build up because it's so easy, so instant.
Your brain starts needing more.
Yeah, you need more likes, more engagement, just to get that same initial feeling. It actually starts to kind of rewire that reward pathway over time.
And the flip side, what if the likes don't come?
Well, that's where the negative feelings can creep in. If you expect that validation and it's not there, it can genuinely trigger sadness, emptiness, anxiety, even contribute to depression for some people.
Okay, so it's a really potent cycle driving us back. But it's not just the reward system, is it? What about just our ability to pay attention, to focus?
That's another huge area. The research is pretty clear that heavy social media use really fragments our attention.
You mean like making it harder to concentrate on one thing?
Exactly. Instead of settling into deep focus, your mind is kind of always on alert, waiting for the next buzz, the next notification, the next scroll, pulled in a million directions.
And I imagine that constant switching must feel pretty stressful, overwhelming.
Totally. It can definitely contribute to feeling overwhelmed and stressed out. And there's data for this one finding mentioned is that people who are heavy social media users tend to perform worse on cognitive tasks.
Like tests requiring focus.
Yeah, tasks that need sustained attention, they score lower compared to folks who use it more moderately.
Why is that exactly? Is it just being distracted easily?
Well, part of it is that social media is constantly vying for your attention, and it becomes harder to ignore that pull if you use it a lot. But there's a more worrying detail mentioned too. Some research suggests that heavy use might actually lead to physical changes in the brain, like potentially shrinking the part that's responsible for maintaining attention.
Shrinking just from scrolling and liking. That's
Yeah.
quite something to think about.
It is. It highlights how significant the impact can be.
So if our attention is being sort of chipped away like this, what can we actually do about it? Is there a practical step?
One really effective strategy the sources recommend is honestly pretty simple. Turn off your social media notifications.
Just switch them off.
Yeah. It sounds basic, but it puts you back in the driver's seat. You decide when to check in rather than reacting every time your phone demands your attention.
So you're not constantly being interrupted.
Exactly. It helps you focus on one thing at a time, reduces that constant mental juggling, and can really cut down on feeling overwhelmed.
Okay, that makes sense. Turn off the dings. So we've got the reward loop, the fragmented attention. What about memory? Does all this affect how we remember things?
It looks like it can, yeah. Memory formation and recall can definitely be impacted. Think about it. Your brain's trying to process this constant, massive flood of information.
Right, from all different directions.
Exactly.
Yep.
It can overload your cognitive resources. Basically, it makes it harder for your brain to properly encode new memories, to actually lock them in.
Huh. And wasn't there something interesting about taking pictures or posting while something is happening?
Yes. This was fascinating. The research suggests that if you pause an experience like you're watching a hazing sunset or you're at a concert,
And you stop to get the perfect shot or write a post.
right, if you interrupt the experience in the moment to document it for social media, it can actually interfere with your ability to remember the experience itself later on.
Well, wait, that feels backwards? You think documenting helps you remember?
I know, it seems counterintuitive, but it seems to be about the interruption of just being present, breaking that flow.
So what's the takeaway then? Don't take pictures.
Not necessarily. The suggestion is maybe wait until after the experience is over. Enjoy it fully first. Then go through your photos, write about it, post about it.
Be present first, document later.
Exactly. The sources mention that looking back at photos or journaling after the event can actually boost your memory and positive feelings about it. It's the timing that seems key.
Okay, that's a useful distinction. All of this, the dopamine, the attention, the memory, it clearly adds up to having some pretty significant effects on our mental well-being, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question. Social media can take a real toll, especially on self-esteem.
Oh.
It can really crank up feelings like FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Definitely felt that one.
Yeah, and feelings of inadequacy, like your life isn't as good as everyone else's curated feeds. Dissatisfaction, even paradoxically feeling more isolated despite being constantly connected.
And those feelings, they don't exist in a vacuum. They can worsen things like stress, anxiety.
And depression, yes. And one of the sources, the Shaw Foundation, brings a really important focus here, specifically on teenagers.
That's their angle.
Well, they point out that, look, teens have always dealt with mental health stuff and social pressures, right? That's not new.
Sure, part of growing up.
But social media acts like a megaphone. It amplifies those negative experiences intensely. Their work specifically calls out features like the like and share buttons.
How do those play in?
They found those features directly ramp up negative social comparison. Seeing how many likes someone else gets versus you,
Yeah.
it fuels that comparison engine.
And they mentioned this hits teens particularly hard, especially girls.
Yes, that's a key finding they highlight. And another crucial point from the Shaw Foundation is the speed of it all.
Speed.
Yeah, these problems are hitting faster, they're becoming bigger issues, and they're running deeper than similar challenges in past generations. It makes it incredibly tough for parents and teens themselves to even keep up with the research and figure out how to navigate it.
Wow. So the landscape is changing really fast.
Yeah.
Okay, so putting it all together, the way it hijacks our reward system, frags our attention, maybe messes with memory, and seriously amplifies mental health struggles and comparison. It feels like setting boundaries isn't just a nice idea, it's kind of crucial.
It really is. The sources use a good analogy. Think of social media like candy.
Okay.
A little bit might be fine, enjoyable even, but too much isn't good for you. Moderation is essential. It's not necessarily about cutting it out completely for everyone, but about being really intentional with how you consume it.
Right. And we mentioned a couple of practical things already. Turning off the notifications is a big one.
Huge. And maybe setting specific times to check in instead of just dipping in and out all day long.
What else? Any other concrete strategies?
Setting a clear time limit for your daily use. That's strongly recommended.
Like an actual timer.
Yeah. And there's research cited suggesting this really works. One study found that people who cut their usage down to about 30 minutes a day.
30 minutes total. That sounds intense.
It might sound low for heavy users, absolutely, but the results were significant. They reported noticeable reductions in anxiety, depression, and feelings of loneliness.
Okay, so maybe aiming for something like that, even if it takes time to get there, how do you stick to it?
Use tools. Set an alarm on your phone. Use the screen time trackers built into most phones now. Or if you need more help, there are apps specifically designed to block social media access once you hit your limit.
Got it. So use technology to fight technology's pull.
Kind of, yeah. And look, if you find this stuff hard, if you feel that pull back to the apps even when you don't want to,
If it feels addictive.
yeah. It's really important to remember you are definitely not alone. The sources emphasize this. These platforms were designed using insights from psychology and neuroscience. They were built quite deliberately to be engaging, maybe even addictive.
It's not just a lack of willpower.
Not necessarily, no. Understanding the design helps. It's not a personal failing. It's about recognizing how the tool works on your brain chemistry and then taking proactive steps, setting those intentional boundaries to take back control.
Okay, so let's just quickly pull the threads together from this deep dive. Social media hits your brain's reward system hard with dopamine. It attacks your focus and attention. It can potentially interfere with memory.
Ah.
And it really amplifies mental health issues, especially that constant social comparison, particularly for teens.
Exactly. And the way forward seems to be acknowledging these impacts and actively using strategies, managing notifications, setting those time limits, being present in the moment before sharing to lessen the downsides and use these platforms more in your own terms.
Right. So as we finish up, maybe here's a final thought to chew on, building on what we've discussed. Isn't it a strange paradox that these tools, designed specifically to connect us, can often leave us feeling more alone, more inadequate, or just constantly distracted?
It really is.
But maybe being aware of how they're wired to affect our brains, like we talked about today, is the first step. That awareness gives you the power to be more intentional, to use them as the tools they are, rather than letting them run the show for your attention and your well-being.